On the morning of January 17, 1893, Queen Liliuokalani of Hawaii stands at a window of Iolani Palace, watching 162 United States Marines march through the streets of Honolulu. They have not come to protect her. They have come to remove her. Outside the palace gates, a group of 13 men, sugar plantation owners, lawyers, descendants of American missionaries, have declared themselves the new government of Hawaii. They call themselves the Committee of Safety. The Queen calls them traitors. She has a choice. Her royal guards are armed. Her people are loyal. She could order them to fight. Instead, she yields her authority, not to these businessmen, but to the United States government, trusting that once Washington learns the truth, justice will prevail. She writes her surrender in careful, legal English. She does not abdicate. She protests. She waits. She will wait for the rest of her life. This is the story of Liliuokalani, the first and only queen to rule Hawaii, the last sovereign of an independent Pacific kingdom, and the woman who lost her throne not to a foreign army, but to American citizens who lived in her own country, grew rich on her land, and decided they wanted more. The Hawaiian Islands had been a unified kingdom since 1810, when Kamehameha the Great brought all 8 islands under a single crown. For nearly a century, Hawaii operated as a constitutional monarchy recognized by the major powers of the world, exchanging ambassadors with the United States, Britain, France, and Japan. By the mid-19th century, however, foreign influence had transformed the islands. American missionaries arrived in the 1820s. Behind them came merchants, then sugar planters. By the 1870s, American and European businessmen controlled Hawaii's most profitable land. An 1875 reciprocity treaty gave Hawaiians sugar duty-free entry to the United States in exchange for access to Pearl Harbor. The treaty made the sugar barons rich and bound Hawaii's merchants came sugar planters. By the 1850s, the Hawaiian monarchy had established private land ownership, a decision meant to protect Hawaiian interests, but one that ultimately allowed foreigners to purchase vast estates. American and European businessmen acquired the most fertile land. They built sugar plantations that stretched for miles. They imported Chinese and Japanese laborers to work fields that had once belonged to Hawaiian families for generations. An 1875 reciprocity treaty gave Hawaiians sugar duty-free entry to American markets. In exchange, Hawaii granted the United States exclusive trading rights and access to Pearl Harbor. The treaty made the sugar barons extraordinarily wealthy. By 1890, the islands exported over $13 million annually, nearly all of it sugar bound for America. But it also bound Hawaii's economy to American interests with chains that would prove impossible to break. Lydia Liliuokalani was born on September 2, 1838, in Honolulu. Her parents were high chiefs, advisors to King Kamehameha III. Following Hawaiian custom, she was adopted at birth by another noble family, a practice called hanai that strengthened alliances among the ruling class. She grew up alongside her hanai sister Bernice Pauahi, who would later found the Kamehameha schools. At 4 years old, Liliuokalani enrolled at the Royal School, a boarding school for children of the nobility run by American missionaries. She learned English, music, and the Christian faith. She showed extraordinary musical talent from childhood. "To compose was as natural to me as to breathe," she later wrote. By adulthood, she had written over 150 songs, including Aloha O, a love song she composed in 1878 that would become Hawaii's unofficial anthem, and, after the overthrow, a hymn of mourning for a lost nation. In 1862, she married John Owen Dominus, an American-born government official. The marriage was difficult. The couple had no biological children, though. Liliuokalani adopted 3 through Hanai. Her brother, David Kalakaua, was elected king in 1874. Kalakaua was a modernizer who built Iolani Palace and became the first reigning monarch to circumnavigate the globe. When their younger brother died in 1877, Liliuokalani became heir apparent. She spent 14 years preparing, serving as regent, attending Queen Victoria's Golden Jubilee in 1887, and watching as American businessmen tightened their grip on her kingdom. The crisis came in July 1887, while Liliuokalani was still in London attending Queen Victoria's Jubilee. A secret organization called the Hawaiian League, sugar planters, lawyers, and businessmen, most of them American citizens, had been plotting for months. They controlled a militia called the Honolulu Rifles, armed with weapons smuggled from San Francisco. On June 30th, they surrounded the palace and presented King Kalakaua with an ultimatum: sign a new constitution or face removal, possibly assassination. Kalakaua believed his life was in danger. He signed. The document became known as the Bayonet Constitution. It stripped the monarchy of nearly all meaningful power. The king could no longer appoint cabinet ministers without legislative approval. He could no longer dismiss them at will. Executive authority transferred to a cabinet controlled by the legislature, and the legislature was now controlled by the Hawaiian League. The Constitution imposed property and income requirements for voting that disenfranchised most native Hawaiians, while granting suffrage to wealthy foreign residents, including Americans who had never become Hawaiian citizens. It barred all Asians from voting entirely. In a single stroke, the businessmen had engineered a legal coup. The king remained on his throne, but the throne had been hollowed out. Kalakaua never recovered. His health deteriorated. The man who had once dreamed of a Pacific empire spent his final years humiliated and powerless. On January 21st, 1891, he died in San Francisco during a trip meant to restore his strength. His body was brought home aboard the USS Charleston. Liliuokalani took the oath of office that same day. She swore to uphold the Constitution, but she made clear that she did not accept the Bayonet Constitution as legitimate. It had been signed under duress and never ratified by the Hawaiian legislature. It did not represent the will of her people. She intended to replace it. For 2 years, Queen Liliuokalani worked within the constraints of the Bayonet Constitution while preparing a new one. Her proposed constitution would restore power to the monarchy and expand voting rights to native Hawaiians. It would undo everything the Hawaiian League had accomplished in 1887. The businessmen learned of her plans on January 14, 1893. They moved immediately. Loren Thurston, a lawyer and grandson of American missionaries, led the conspiracy. He had helped draft the Bayonet Constitution and had founded the Annexation Club, a secret organization whose goal was to make Hawaii part of the United States. Now he formed the Committee of Safety with 12 other men, 6 Hawaiian citizens and 7 foreign nationals. On January 16th, the committee asked John L. Stevens, the United States Minister to Hawaii, for military support. Stevens agreed. That afternoon, 162 Marines and sailors from the USS Boston landed in Honolulu and took up positions near the palace. The next morning, the Committee of Safety declared the monarchy abolished and announced a provisional government with Sanford Dole, cousin of the pineapple magnate James Dole, as president. Liliuokalani faced an impossible choice. Her guards could fight, but they were vastly outnumbered. The American troops had not directly attacked her, but their presence made clear who would win any confrontation. She yielded, not to the committee, but to the United States government. Her statement was precise. I do, under this protest, and impelled by said forces, yield my authority until such time as the government of the United States shall, upon the facts being presented to it, undo the action of its representative and reinstate me. She expected justice. She was wrong. President Grover Cleveland, who took office in March 1893, did investigate. He sent James Blount to Hawaii. Blount's report was damning. He concluded that Minister Stevens had conspired with the Committee of Safety, that American troops had intimidated the Queen into surrendering, and that the overthrow was illegal. Cleveland withdrew the annexation treaty. He ordered Stevens recalled. He told his new minister to restore the Queen if she would grant amnesty to those who had overthrown her. Liliuokalani initially refused. Hawaiian law prescribed death for treason. She wanted justice, not mercy. This response cost her Cleveland's support. By the time she agreed to amnesty, the moment had passed. Sanford Dole refused to step down. Cleveland, unwilling to use force, gave up. The provisional government became the Republic of Hawaii on July 4, 1894, with Dole as president. In January 1895, Hawaiian royalists attempted a counter-revolution. Robert Wilcox led approximately 150 armed supporters in a 4-day uprising. It failed. Authorities found weapons buried in the garden of Washington Place, the Queen's private residence. They arrested her on January 16th and charged her with misprision of treason. They imprisoned her in an upstairs bedroom of Iolani Palace, the building where she had once ruled. For 8 months, she lived in a single room with one companion. The windows were covered so she could not see out. To save her supporters from execution, 6 had been sentenced to death. She signed a formal abdication on January 24, 1895. She wrote later, "For myself, I would have chosen death rather than to have signed it. But it was represented to me that by my signing this paper, all the persons who had been arrested, all my people now in trouble by reason of their love and loyalty toward me, would be immediately released." She was tried in her former throne room, convicted, and sentenced to 5 years of hard labor and a $5,000 fine. Dole commuted the hard labor, but kept her confined. She spent 8 months in the palace, then 5 more under house arrest. During her imprisonment, she made a quilt. In the center, she embroidered the dates of her downfall. She also composed music, including The Queen's Prayer, a hymn asking God to forgive those who had wronged her. On October 23, 1896, Sanford Dole pardoned Liliuokalani. She traveled to Washington, D.C. in 1897, hoping to prevent annexation. Native Hawaiians organized the Kue petitions, gathering over 21,000 signatures against annexation from a Native Hawaiian population of approximately 40,000. The petitions worked. The annexation treaty failed in the Senate. But then came the Spanish-American War. In 1898, President William McKinley signed the Newlands Resolution, annexing Hawaii through a joint resolution of Congress, bypassing the 2/3 Senate majority that had blocked annexation before. The ceremony took place at Iolani Palace on August 12, 1898. Almost no Native Hawaiians attended. Most of the 40,000 Native Hawaiians in the islands, including Liliuokalani, shut themselves in their homes. The Hawaiian flag was lowered, the American flag was raised. An independent Pacific kingdom ceased to exist. Liliuokalani spent her remaining years at Washington Place, receiving visitors from around the world who came to pay respects to the deposed queen. She still dressed in royal fashion. she still conducted herself with the dignity of a head of state. Her people still called her Queen. She sued the United States in 1909, seeking the return of the Crown lands seized during annexation, approximately 1.8 million acres. She lost. The courts ruled that the lands had belonged to the government of Hawaii, not to her personally. That same year, she did something that would outlast all her legal defeats. She established the Liliuokalani Trust, dedicating her estate to orphan and destitute children, with preference given to children of Hawaiian blood. She wrote in her will, "It is for them that I would give the last drop of my blood." The trust continues today. It serves thousands of native Hawaiian children across all 6 major islands. In 1898, she had published her memoir, Hawaii's Story by Hawaii's Queen, a detailed first-person account of the overthrow written as testimony for history. In 1911, the territorial government finally granted her a pension of $1,250 per month, a fraction of what had been taken from her, but an acknowledgement nonetheless. On November 11, 1917, Liliuokalani died of a stroke at Washington Place. She was 79 years old. The bells of St. Andrew's Cathedral and Kauaiahau Church tolled 79 times, once for each year of her life. At midnight, her body was carried through the streets of Honolulu in a royal procession, preceded by the flaming torch that was the emblem of the Kalakaua dynasty. She lay in state in the throne room of Iolani Palace, the same room where she had been tried for treason. Thousands came to pay their respects. When the procession reached the royal mausoleum at Mauna Ala, a light rain fell. Hawaiians called it the royal rain, the sky weeping for its queen. A children's choir sang Aloha O. 100 years after the overthrow, in 1993, the United States Congress passed the Apology Resolution. President Bill Clinton signed it on November 23rd. The resolution acknowledged that the overthrow of the Kingdom of Hawaii occurred with the active participation of agents and citizens of the United States, and apologized to Native Hawaiians. It did not return sovereignty or provide compensation, but it entered into official record the truth Liliuokalani had fought to establish, that what happened on January 17, 1893, was not a revolution. It was a crime. In January 2026, the Episcopal Church formally recognized Liliuokalani as a saint, honoring her refusal to use bloodshed during the overthrow and her legacy of peace and reconciliation. Today, the Liliuokalani Trust serves native Hawaiian children across the islands. Iolani Palace operates as a museum, the only royal palace on American soil. Her song, Aloha Oe, is still sung at funerals and departures throughout Hawaii. Queen Liliuokalani never met her kingdom again. But she never stopped being its queen. When she died, she was still fighting for her people. When she wrote her will, she gave everything to Hawaiian children. Her motto was Onapa, stand firm. She stood firm for 44 years after her throne was taken. Her people are still standing. If you found this story compelling, consider subscribing. We explore the rise and fall of history's most powerful dynasties, one bloodline at a time.